Original post. I was the family scapegoat while my brother was the golden child. Now I own the house he thought was his. I always knew something was off in my family, even as a kid. But when you're young, you don't have the language to describe what's happening to you. You just feel it. That slow-burning, low-grade sense of wrongness. Like you're the guest in your own life while someone else gets the star treatment. In my case, the star was my older brother, Jason. Jason could do no wrong. Literally. He could burn the toast and it'd be because the toaster's broken. He could crash the car and it was the road's fault. He could outright lie and still get comforted because he's under a lot of pressure. Meanwhile, if I forgot to take out the trash once, I was lazy, disrespectful, ungrateful. It was like living in some bizarro universe where logic didn't apply and favoritism was gospel. My parents adored Jason with such intensity that I sometimes wondered if they forgot they had another child. My mom used to say, "You don't understand how hard it is being the oldest. The expectations, the pressure." What pressure, exactly? He flunked out of 2 colleges, went through 3 failed internships, and still got handed the keys to a new car every time he needed a fresh start. I, on the other hand, worked 2 part-time jobs to get through community college and still got passive-aggressive comments about how I chose not to push myself further. Things came to a head when our grandfather passed. Grandpa was, without question, the only adult in our family who treated me like I was more than just a side character. He taught me how to plant tomatoes, how to change the oil in a car, how to speak up for myself, which took me, 25 years to actually do. Jason never had that bond. He barely tolerated family gatherings, let alone quiet afternoons in Grandpa's garden. But despite all that, my parents made it clear that they expected Jason to inherit Grandpa's house. It was always Jason's future home. My mom once joked, "When Jason's family moves in, we'll have to host Christmas there." She never once said my name in those scenarios. I was background noise in my own bloodline. So imagine everyone's surprise, mine included, when Grandpa's lawyer called me in a few weeks after the funeral and read the will. Grandpa left the house to me. Me. Not Jason. Not my parents. Not in vague language or with loopholes. He had updated the will 6 months before his death, and it was ironclad. The lawyer said Grandpa was very clear. He wanted me to have it, and he wanted it protected from interference. When I walked out of that office, I felt equal parts stunned, vindicated, and terrified. I knew the fallout would be nuclear, and I was right. My mom called me within 24 hours, crying so hard she could barely talk. She kept repeating, "There must be some mistake. Jason was supposed to get the house. That was always the plan." My dad didn't say much, just quietly asked, "Are you really going to go through with this?" As if I had somehow stolen something. As if honoring my grandfather's actual legal will was a betrayal. And Jason went radio silent. Not a call. Not a text. Just a giant pouty void and a passive-aggressive post on Instagram that said, "Nothing worse than snakes in your own family. SMH. Subtle. I haven't moved in yet. I'm taking time to sort through the legal stuff and mentally prepare for what I know is coming. The full force of golden child meltdown. I fully expect tears, tantrums, and at least one misguided attempt to gaslight me into signing the deed over to keep the family together. But not this time. Not anymore. For once, I'm holding the cards. And for the first time in my life, I finally get to win. Updates coming soon. Grab popcorn. OP, scapegoat turned heir. Update 1. My parents are furious. Jason is spiraling, and apparently I'm the Antichrist now. Hey Reddit. Thanks for all the support, the hilarious comments, and the messages asking for updates. I wasn't expecting this post to blow up like it did, but clearly, a lot of us have dealt with golden child nonsense and are tired of the scapegoat life. So here's your first update. Buckle up. So after the will was read and I inherited my grandfather's house, which Jason and my parents had unofficially, ceremoniously, and delusionally declared his over the years, things got real ugly real fast. I didn't even get 48 hours to process everything before my mom called me again. Full sob mode activated. You'd think someone had stolen her wedding ring and her dog all in the same day. Her voice cracked as she asked me, Sweetheart, can't you see this is a mistake? That house was always meant for Jason. Grandpa didn't know what he was doing. Let's pause right there. First of all, Grandpa was of completely sound mind when he updated the will. He even told me, gently but firmly, a few months before he passed that he'd made some changes to make sure I was taken care of properly. He didn't say much more because he wasn't the kind of man to make a big show. But I knew, deep down, that he understood what I had been through and wanted to give me something solid. A home, a gesture, a win. But according to my mom, he was confused by medication and probably pressured. By whom? Me, the emotionally neglected second-born who still triple-checks texts to make sure I don't sound rude. My dad chimed in later, trying to play the rational one. He called and said, in his trademark disappointed side tone, "You know this will divide the family. You'll isolate yourself. Is that really worth one house?" I wanted to scream. One house? It's not just a house. It's the principle. It's the years of being dismissed, overlooked, and emotionally bulldozed while they coddled Jason for every mistake he ever made. It's justice. It's legacy. And honestly, it's the first thing I've been given in this family without a guilt trip attached. Jason, of course, couldn't even be bothered to call. Instead, he texted me one sentence. "We need to talk." Now, I'm not a psychic, but I didn't need tarot cards to know that conversation wasn't going to be a calm, reasonable discussion about wills and boundaries. Still, I agreed. Morbid curiosity? Maybe. I met him at a neutral spot, a cafe halfway between our places, figuring a public setting might reduce the odds of a full-blown tantrum. Spoiler, it didn't. The moment I sat down, Jason launched into it. He said Grandpa was clearly manipulated, and that I was being selfish and short-sighted. He actually told me that I was ruining the family's future. You guys, Jason is a 34-year-old man who works part-time, lives in an apartment he trashes, and spends his free time posting shirtless gym selfies captioned, "Grind never stops." This is the future I'm apparently ruining? Then came the offer. He wanted me to gift him the house and he would let me live in it for a few years, until he was ready to settle down. Oh, how generous. I asked him if he'd lost his damn mind, respectfully, of course, and reminded him that Grandpa's will wasn't up for debate. He got loud. I got up and left. And now the petty parade is in full swing. Jason posted a cryptic photo of himself looking out a rainy window with the caption, "Some things can never be replaced, especially when your own blood takes it from you." Cue the dramatic soundtrack and slow violin. Give this man an Oscar. My cousin, bless her gossip-loving soul, told me that my mom is organizing a family meeting to help me see reason. I won't be attending. I already know what's on the agenda. Gaslight, guilt trip, rinse, repeat. For once in my life, I'm not folding. I'm not sacrificing my well-being to keep the golden child's ego inflated. Grandpa made his choice. Clear, legal, generous choice. I'm honoring that. And if that makes me the villain in their story, so be it. More updates soon. I have a feeling this ride isn't over yet. Update 2. The family meeting happened without me, and apparently I've been disowned. Again? Hey Reddit, I'm back. Emotionally battered but still standing. Thanks again for all the support, spicy memes, and one incredibly detailed message suggesting I turn this saga into a Netflix series. I'm listening. Netflix. As expected, Update 2 is every bit the train wreck I predicted. So buckle in. The family unity hostage negotiations have officially collapsed. So let's rewind to last week when I declined to attend the family meeting my mother tried to organize in an effort to convince me to hand Grandpa's house over to Jason. I never agreed to go, and I even sent a polite, okay, slightly snarky, text that said, "Thanks for the invite, but I don't see how a conversation where everyone tries to guilt me into ignoring Grandpa's legal will would be productive." That was apparently a declaration of war. The meeting happened without me, at my parents' house with a small and selective group of concerned family members, i.e. the usual flying monkeys. Cousin Janine, my mole, my hero, was there and fed me the whole play-by-play later, complete with quotes. Buckle up. First off, my mom opened with a dramatic speech about how hurtful this whole situation has been, and how family is being torn apart over material things, right? Material things she fully expected her golden boy to get, despite what a literal will says. Then came Jason in full victim mode. He stood up and told everyone that Grandpa never intended for the house to go to me and that OP manipulated a sick old man into changing the will. According to Janine, he had the nerve to say I isolated Grandpa on purpose so I could get into his head. Newsflash. The only time Jason visited Grandpa in the last 5 years was when there was a family barbecue and beer involved. My aunt, one of the few relatives with a functioning moral compass, reportedly shut that theory down hard. She said Grandpa told her personally that he left the house to me because I was the one who showed up. I called. I visited. I helped him around the house. I listened to his stories. Stories Jason never even knew because he was too busy finding himself in Cancun and then in Vegas and then again on his mom's couch. Then, and I swear I'm not making this up, my dad said they might contest the will, like actually hire a lawyer and fight it. I guess we've officially entered the desperate and delusional phase of grief. Except their grief is about entitlement, not loss. My mom ended the meeting by declaring that unless I do the right thing, I'm no longer welcome in their home. Janine told me she said it with tears in her eyes, like she was excommunicating me from some medieval royal court and not just punishing me for respecting my grandfather's very clear wishes. So there it is, folks. I've apparently been disowned. Again. This would be the 3rd time if we're counting, which I am. But here's the kicker. Despite all this family drama, I've started the process of moving into the house. I spoke with the lawyer, confirmed that everything is airtight, and even got the keys recut. Standing in that living room, the one with Grandpa's old leather recliner still in the corner, I felt something I haven't felt in years. Peace. No one screaming. No one slamming doors. No one shaming me for breathing wrong. Just me, a quiet house, and a memory of the only family member who ever treated me like I mattered. I know the storm isn't over. Jason's pride has a longer shelf life than his employment history, and my parents have an endless well of guilt to pour out. But I've come too far to back down now. I honored Grandpa's choice. I'm building something that's mine, and if they want to call that betrayal, let them. More soon, Reddit. I have a feeling the next chapter is going to involve either a fake reconciliation attempt or legal threats, possibly both. Stay tuned. Update 3. They sent a lawyer. I sent receipts. Guess who blinked first? Hi again, Reddit. If you've been following the saga of golden child entitlement, parental delusion, and legal gymnastics, you'll want to grab a snack because this one is juicy. As predicted, my parents and Jason did not take their collective L with grace. They didn't retreat quietly into reflection and therapy, lol, as if. No, instead they escalated straight into legal threats. Yep. A few days after my last update, I got a letter in the mail. Not even a call or an email, just a very official-looking envelope from a law firm I'd never heard of. Inside, a very dramatic and vaguely threatening letter suggesting that recent developments regarding the inheritance of a certain property may be grounds for contesting the will due to undue influence on a vulnerable individual. I laughed, out loud, alone in my kitchen, like a villain in a Disney sequel. Because here's the thing, not only did Grandpa have full mental capacity when he updated his will, he had 2 doctors sign off on it at the time due to his age, but I also had receipts, literal ones, journal entries Grandpa kept, texts between us, photos of me helping him clean out the attic, voicemails, emails where he mentioned updating things to reflect what feels right. Hell, there's even a selfie of us in front of the lawyer's office. He thought it was hilarious that it looked like we were at a bank heist. So I called my own lawyer, a college friend turned estate attorney. Thanks, Anna. And we drafted a response. Let's just say it was calm, confident, and very heavy on the documentation. I attached timelines, communication logs, and every scrap of evidence showing I hadn't pressured Grandpa. I had been there when no one else was. It was less undue influence and more, hey, remember the kid who showed up for years while everyone else bailed? The paper trail was basically a novel. I sent it off and waited for a week silence. Then my mom called, not to apologize, Not even to back down. No, to plead. She opened with, "Can't we just work this out privately? Do you really want to turn this into a public fight?" Translation. She realized their legal scare tactic failed and now wanted to save face. I asked her flat out, "Would you be saying that if the lawyer hadn't shut you down?" She went quiet. I told her I wasn't open to private deals that involved giving Jason a damn thing, and that Grandpa's will was final. Period. And then, the twist I almost didn't see coming, Jason called me. For the first time in months, he called instead of texting. His voice was shaky. He asked me to meet him for coffee again. I agreed, mostly because I wanted to see what the next performance would be. But this time, it wasn't rage or passive-aggressive guilt. It was desperation. He actually said the words, "I'm in debt. A lot. I thought the house was going to save me. There it is." Turns out, he took out some risky loans banking on inheriting the house. He literally gambled on entitlement. I almost choked on my drink. He started rambling about how maybe we could sell the house and split the money, because it wasn't fair that I got it all. I just said calmly, "Jason, you weren't there. You never were. And the house isn't a prize. It's a gift Grandpa left me, because he knew what I went through. I'm keeping it. That's final." He didn't yell this time. He just looked defeated. I almost felt bad. Almost. Later that night, my aunt, the good one, called to say she was proud of me. That Grandpa would be too. That was the first time in a long time I cried. Not from stress, but from finally feeling like someone saw me. Not the scapegoat. Not the backup kid. Just me. I started fixing the place up. Found an old notebook of Grandpa's in the attic. He wrote, "Some roots are buried deep, strong enough to hold, even when the storm comes." Guess what, Grandpa? I weathered the storm. Final update. I didn't just win the house. I won my peace. Hey Reddit. This will be my last update in this whole chaotic, petty, painful, and dare I say it, victorious saga. When I first posted about the house, I never expected this many people to resonate with the story of the scapegoat finally getting their due. Your messages, stories, and support kept me grounded, especially when the drama reached nuclear levels. So here we go. One last chapter. After the Jason pity coffee meeting, things got eerily quiet. I think it finally sunk in that the house wasn't going to magically end up in his lap like every other thing our parents handed him on a silver platter. No amount of guilt-tripping, legal threats, or dramatic Facebook posts were going to change the cold, hard fact that Grandpa made a clear decision, and it wasn't in Jason's favor. The legal noise? Silenced. My lawyer heard back from their attorney, who basically said in legal essay, "Our client is withdrawing any intent to pursue this matter further." Translation. They realized they had no case, no leverage, and no shot. Game. Set. Match. But the real twist? My parents actually tried to stage a reconciliation dinner. Yes, after months of emotional blackmail, a public tantrum, and trying to sue me, they sent me a heartfelt, handwritten letter, clearly dictated by my mom and written by my dad's hand, complete with smudges and passive-aggressive underlining, asking me to come home for a family meal to move forward as one. Reader, I declined. I didn't even respond. I simply sent back a copy of the will and a small note that read, "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Hope you find peace too." Since then, I've moved into Grandpa's house fully. The first week was surreal. A mix of grief, relief, and unexpected joy. Every corner of the house has little traces of him. The porch where he used to drink coffee and talk about how people don't make chairs like they used to. The drawer filled with batteries and rubber bands, just in case. The bookshelves lined with spy thrillers he never finished but refused to give away. I've started renovating, not to erase his memory, but to build onto it. I found a contractor who's actually the son of one of Grandpa's old co-workers. Small world. We're restoring the garden first, the one Grandpa used to obsess over every spring. I planted tulips. He would have hated them. I did it anyway. As for Jason, I heard through cousin Janine, forever my ride or die, that he's moved out of state. Something about a fresh start and a big opportunity. I wish him well, in the way you wish a rain cloud would move over someone else's picnic. Not out of malice, just out of self-preservation. And my parents? I've gone low contact. Not no contact, yet, but I'm keeping my boundaries sharp and my expectations lower than Jason's credit score. They're still spinning their narrative, but I've stopped caring. I spent too long being the scapegoat. I'm done carrying their guilt and dysfunction like it was mine to begin with. Here's the truth, Reddit. I didn't just win a house. I won freedom. I won the right to define myself outside of the golden child/shadow child dynamic. I won closure. I honored the one person in my family who truly saw me, and I protected what he left behind. And for once, no one can take it away from me. Thanks for reading, and for standing beside the kid who was never picked first until now. Epilogue. The house is quiet now, but so is my heart. It's been just over a year since the legal letters stopped, the phone calls slowed, and I stepped fully into the life I built. Not the one I was handed, or guilt into, or expected to crawl for. Just mine. The house looks different now. The paint is new. The garden is blooming. I turned Grandpa's old study into a reading nook with an absurdly comfy chair I know he would have mocked until he tried it himself. The place still smells like him sometimes. Cedar, pipe tobacco, and a stubborn refusal to throw anything away. I kept his recliner. I couldn't bring myself to toss it, even after all the changes. It's a relic like him. Solid. Familiar. I've made friends with the neighbors. Turns out Grandpa was beloved by more people than I ever realized. The mail carrier still asks about him, and the couple 2 doors down told me he once fixed their fence, just because. Every time someone tells me a story about him, I write it down in a journal. It's my way of preserving the legacy he left behind, beyond bricks and drywall. I also started therapy, and not just because Reddit told me to, though honestly, thank you for that push. It's helped me unpack the years I spent being invisible in my own family, and helped me understand that love without conditions isn't a fantasy. It's just rare. But I had it. From him. And now from myself. Jason hasn't contacted me. I don't think he will. I've accepted that he lives in a world where he's always the victim, even when he's holding the knife. My parents send the occasional just checking in text, but I answer them on my timeline, if at all. I don't owe them more than that. I finally understand that setting a boundary isn't cruel. It's how you stop bleeding. And Janine? She's the godmother to my cat now. I adopted a chunky tabby I named Chester, who likes to sleep in the sunspots in the living room and has an alarming hatred for cucumbers. We both do fine with quiet. Sometimes I still walk through the house with a coffee mug Grandpa would have called obnoxiously large, and imagine telling him about everything that's happened. I think he'd smirk and say, "Told you they'd try something. Proud of you for standing up." I thank him again. For the house. For seeing me. For giving me the kind of ending that, for a long time, I didn't believe people like me got. Turns out, the scapegoat doesn't just survive. Sometimes we inherit the whole damn castle.